I think because of TV today, there are a lot of misconceptions about trace evidence. Take for fingernails. I don't think in my entire career in homicide have I ever had success with fingernail scrapings. Now, for the first, many years of my career, DNA was not at the level it is now.
Right.
Today, fingernail scrapings is certainly more important than it would have been 10 years ago, given the science at the time as opposed to now. And, they drop an eyelash into a machine and an hour later they have the name and picture. And I'm fascinated at the fact that people, that I speak to expect that's reality.
Right.
People on juries are told that by defense attorneys and expect that is reality. And if I can't sit up there and explain to them why we didn't have this guy's picture from his eyelash, weeks before, then, the defense can make me look pretty foolish. Well, they do it on TV, So, so it's a strange animal when you're dealing with trace evidence, and it is very expensive, and it is very time consuming. Now, we're not concerned with the expense when it comes to a case like this. Right. And I doubt seriously if any higher ups anywhere, be it on the police department or district attorney's office, nicked doing any testing on a case like this. When Crystal Menares's body was found at this location, it was apparent that she had been dropped here, not murdered here, because there was evidence that she had been drugged down the trail that I just walked down to this spot. The body was decomposing. At the time, we were unable to determine, because of the decomposition, if this victim was a young person or an older person. I thought at the time she might be a little older because of the clothing that she was wearing, the floral prints and such, but she was wearing a bright toenail and fingernail polish, and this caused me to wonder. As I approached the crime scene, I could see that even though she was quite decomposing, that she had a ligature around her neck, and there were no shoes. The area was grown up in vegetation, a lot of trash. On TV crime scenes, you get to an area like this and there are frequently evidence that jumps out at the detective in the movie. Clear tire prints that they can get impressions from. There's a can or a cigarette butt laying near the body. Frequently in real life, that's not the case. You get to a crime scene like this, there's a lot of trash, debris, a tremendous amount of potential evidence. Officers arrived at the suspect residence in order to begin the search. Investigators knocked on the front door, however, there was no answer. And officers that went to the rear then met with Mrs. Ortiz. There were 3 vehicles in the driveway at the time, documented by Detective Carroll, one of which belonged to Mr. Ortiz. The only persons at the residence were Mr. and Mrs. Ortiz, both of whom appear to be residing in the back building / garage located within the chain link fenced-in area of the residence. And Mr. Ortiz then came out into the yard and As Detective Brannon introduced himself and presented the warrant, officers requested that the family secure a large German Shepherd, which they did. Showed Mrs. Ortiz the warrant and then entered the property. Uneventfully, Mr. Ortiz continued into the house, went into the front portion of the house, which he stated had been burned out some time ago and was used for storage. However, Detective Brannon followed him in and observed that it was obviously a living area furnished with items one might expect a young male subject to have, such as athletic t-shirts, barbells, etc. There's also a large amount of stereo equipment, including wiring and speaker wires and such. And Mr. Ortiz was allowed to leave the premises, stating that he was going to work in a company rental car, which has been first photographed and searched by a crime scene officer. Detective Brannon's attention has been directed to the search in the center bedroom, which is the suspect's bedroom, in which numerous young Hispanic females' driver's license, photographs, names, and phone numbers have been located by Detective Taylor and Sergeant Anderson during the course of the search. Also videotapes depicting young females. Unclear at this time, but a possibility that one or more of these subjects have been the victims of sexual assault or may possibly even be missing at this time and must be researched. These items involving descriptions, phone numbers, possible locations, and photographs of young females similar to the victim are being collected for follow-up investigation. Officer Herrera was assisting in the search of the front main residence area and directed Detective Brannon's attention to some speaker wire just inside the back door, which is very similar to that configured the ligature on the body of the complainant. Detective Brannon has been advised by Detective Taylor that there's been some videotapes found in the system which depict young teenage Hispanic girls in promiscuous sexual type acts. Detective Brannon has directed that these tapes be collected. Crime scene officer Yeager has advised that he has found several police officers' pocket notebooks with service numbers in them. We go into a search looking for evidence, and we articulate what we're looking for in the search warrant to the judge before we ever go. We articulate the exact areas that we want to search, and the judge must sign off on that. So we go to Andy Ortiz's looking for anything that might link him to this case, with Crystal Menjarez particularly. She was not wearing shoes when the body was found, so we're looking for her shoes. She had a ligature about her neck that was obviously a speaker wire, and color-coded speaker wire. We thought we may be able to find that. We thought we may be able to find evidence that she had been there. Any pictures of her, writings, anything that might further the investigation, put her at Andy Ortiz's bedroom. When I got there and we entered that bedroom, the first thing I think of is all of the wire. There were bundles of speaker wire on the back porch and in his bedroom, and ends of electronic devices that had wires hanging off that had been cut off or pulled out. And I remember thinking, this is what we refer to as a weapon of opportunity. It's something in the heat of the moment, the anger or the intent to kill that you can grab and use as a weapon. What I didn't expect was to go into his bedroom and find so much evidence of other young women that had been there. There's photographs, many, many photographs, Polaroid photographs and pictures of different types. Identification of young women. Scraps of paper with the names of young girls and phone numbers and a lot of clothing from women. And I tell you, to the detective walking into something like that, it's like that feeling of sudden stress, that tightness of chest, that short of breath feeling, that knot in your stomach feeling of, Lord, how many more are we looking at? How many more victims are there out here? Do we even know? Have all the bodies been found? How many of these girls are still alive? How many of them are friends, and how many of them are people just like Crystal Menher has been brought over here? And that causes you some pause, and you stand there and try to take it all in.